Hi everyone, my name's Shelley and I just thought I'd share with you a simple bit of animation that you could make in Adobe Photoshop. Not everyone will have Photoshop. You can download a free trial version for 3 weeks. So if you fancy learning something new yourself, or you want to get your kids involved in it when we're in this sort of scary lockdown, and you fancy doing something a bit creative, a bit different, then this video could be for you. We'll give it a go. I'll make it as short as possible, just to give you a taster really. If you've got any questions, feel free to drop me a message through YouTube or on Facebook or whatever. So here we go. I've just launched Photoshop and I need to go first of all File, New, and when I do that I get this panel that comes up here. If I click where it says Film and Video, we're going to make a video animation, so one that's suitable for uploading to YouTube, for example. So we'll make this an HD ready. If I select the first button just there, make sure Artboards is switched off for what we want to do, and then I'm just going to click Create. And straight away you can see this is my canvas, so I'm ready basically to get started on animation. A couple of little things for you guys to know. The bar on the inside here is called Title Safe. So if you create any kind of title for your animation, just make sure it goes inside that line. The outside line is called Action Safe. Any really detailed parts of your animation shouldn't fall outside of that line just there. To get started on this, we head over here. This is called the Layers panel, and there's a little padlock there. We just need to double click and unlock that layer first of all. So I'm going to do that. There we go. So that layer is now unlocked. We then need to open up Photoshop's animation timeline. Some people that have used Photoshop for years didn't even realise that you can do animation, and you can do some quite quick and simple stuff using Photoshop. Let me go to Window, Timeline, and you'll see it straight away brings up this thing called a timeline. And then you'll see a button here that says Create Video Timeline. If that one's not showing, you might have Create Frame Animation instead. If it's not showing, click this little button here and then click Create Video Timeline. And then I'm going to just zoom out a little bit on this timeline with this button. And the first step in this is to decide how long you want your animation to last. I find it's much easier to do it this way. Think of Photoshop animation as little short bite-sized chunks, just a bit like a flip book or something simple. So let's just drag this out just as an experiment. So let's set that to about 8 seconds first of all. I'm now going to just rename that layer so I know what it's for. So I'm going to double click on here and I'm just going to call that background. Now we need to create a layer to do our animation on. So I'm going to go Layer, New Video Layer if I can find it. Where are we? Somewhere in here, there it is, Video Layers, New Blank Video Layer. That's going to enable us to draw pictures frame by frame. So I'm going to do that. And you'll see straight away it adds a second layer. And over in the Layers panel, you can see it's called Layer 1. So I'm going to double click on that and I'm going to make a dripping tap. So I'm going to call this dripping tap. The next step, before we go any further, is to set the frame rate, as in how many drawings you're going to play per second. Generally speaking, for animation it's 12 frames per second. So I'm going to click this little button here and I'm going to go to the timeline frame rate and I'm going to set that to be 12 frames a second and then I'm going to click OK. Okay, so we're job done, we're now ready to go. Now, how do we do this? Well, to begin with, I'm going to grab the paintbrush tool and I'm going to say to myself, are there any parts of the animation that won't actually animate, they're going to stay still? In this example, I want to make a tap that drips, a simple tap that drips. So the tap itself isn't going to animate, it's going to stay still. The only time the tap might animate is if you want it to literally wiggle a bit and jitter while the drip's happening. For this, I want the animation to be that the tap stays static. So I'm going to come over to my Layers panel here, click that little layer button there, and I'm just going to call this one Tap, like so. And I'm just going to drag it below the dripping tap layer. Then I'm going to come back over to the timeline here and I'm going to drag that layer out so it's the same length as the others. Okay. Now making sure I'm on the tap layer, I'm going to scribble out a quick picture of a tap. Please don't judge my terrible drawing, I'm sure you'll do way better than me, but we'll just whack out something really quick to test this out. So let me just draw a little tap shape really quickly. Dun dun dun. You'll be able to spend a lot more time than me. This doesn't look anything like a tap, but hey, just go with me on this one. So there we are, we've got a beautifully, lovingly created tap. Now I need to go to the dripping tap layer, and I'm going to click on the paintbrush tool, double click on the swatches, and choose a colour. So I'm going to go for a blue colour. And now I'm going to make sure the dripping tap layer is definitely selected. I might zoom in a little tiny bit on this. And then I'm going to draw my first picture. So I'm going to do just a tiny little bit of water coming out of that tap. Now I want to press this next frame button just there. And you'll notice as soon as I do that, I can't actually see the drawing that I did on the first frame. That's not very handy with animation, because often you need to trace the picture that you did on the previous frame and just make a bit of a change. To see the frame, if you click the previous frame, I should say, if you click this little button here and click Onion Skin Settings and then change the blend mode here to be normal and then click OK, you can now see, hopefully you can see this on the video, a tiny preview of the drip. If I now copy it but make it a little bit bigger, so in my head I'm just thinking about how it might look when it drips. Click the next frame button and do the same again, a little bit bigger. And notice I'm slightly elongating this. I'm imagining that the water is getting heavy in the drip, so it's stretching out the shape a little bit. So there we go, one frame along, and we'll stretch that out a little bit more. And one frame along, and we'll just go one more on that one, I think, like so. Okay, now with animation, the smaller the movement or the change that you make, the slower the animation. The bigger the change you make, the faster the animation. So in this example here, the tap will probably be quite slow to gather in the drip, and as soon as it detaches itself from the tap, it will go faster. So we need to make the drawing space a little bit bigger this time. So on this bit here, let's go one frame along, and then let's just detach it from the tap now. One frame along, let's detach it from the tap, and I'm getting the spacing between the drawings a little bit bigger. You can spend lots of time on this, obviously I'm just scribbling it really fast. Now when it gets to the point where it makes impact with the sink or whatever it is it's dripping into, you need to then squash the shape down a bit. So at the point of impact, we'll say it's about here, I'm going to completely change the shape of this, maybe add a couple of little, one or two little drippy marks like that as well. Now I'm going to go one frame along, and I'm going to squish it just a little bit more, and again a couple of little drippy bits in here like so. One frame along, a tiny bit more like that, and a couple of drippy bits, just a little splashy bits. One frame along, and last little splashy bits kind of going down like so. Alright, I think I'm happy with the animation. In order to play it, I'm going to switch onion skin off, so I'm going to come over here and switch that off. If I now pull the play bar back and hit the play button or the space bar on my keyboard, you can now see my animation playing through. There we go. If I want the animation to end exactly when the final drawing happens, which is basically there, I'm going to put the play bar there and just reduce the length of these clips like so. So reduce that, reduce that, reduce that. Now pull the play bar back, now hit play, and it should play over and over again on a loop. If yours doesn't play on a loop, just click on this button and make sure loop playback's available. So pull that back, hit play, and there we go. From this moment you could import in a dripping sound and you could put that in there, or you could just export it, put it on maybe you could create a YouTube channel for all of your animation tests that you do and upload them there. If you're going to put it onto YouTube, you'll need to export the video. To export it, if I go File, Export, Render Video, we'll just give this a name and we'll keep it as an MP4, so we'll say Drip Tap Test. I'm just going to pop mine on the desktop like so. Click the render button and it should just make you a little video. If I now pop to my desktop, and I've got all sorts of stuff here, but Drip Tap Test is there. And then if I come over here, press play, There you go, there's my little animation. So then that could be uploaded to YouTube and you could have a collection of all the animations that you get up to while you're not at school, while you're not at work or whatever, and you've got a new skill and a new little portfolio of tests to show people. I hope you find that useful. I'd love to hear your feedback, so give us a shout. I just thought it might be fun to share something a bit different with you guys.